Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the training tonight. I am Cecilia, and I will be your teacher tonight. For those of you that will be watching the replay, we're doing a recap and a retraining teaching on the spirit of Haman, because last week it was accidentally deleted. So I'm going to be going over the teaching because a lot of people have asked for me to do the reteaching. Hello, Felicia. God bless you. Come on in. Coming on, please invite some other people to come in tonight to listen to the teaching. We're going to start in a minute. We're waiting for the increase of people to come in and be able to listen. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tanisha. God bless you. Teresa and Day, God bless all of you. I thank you so much for coming. Please share on your Facebook page or start a watch party with others so that they can listen to what I'm going to be teaching on tonight as well. I'm going to try to see if I can find us some soft music to listen to as I go forth in the teaching. I pray that all had a blessed day. You know, it's nothing like praising God and going through a day without being so very hectic. And even if it was hectic, knowing that we have a God that loves us and will protect us and shield us and guide us, you know, and just lets us know that, you know, he loves us. Let me know if this music is too loud for you guys. Hello, Elder Sharon Johnson. God bless you. Thanks so much for coming on. Hello, Alicia. God bless you. Tonight, as I said earlier on my post, that I'm going to be doing a reteaching. So it's going to be a recap teaching on the spirit of Haman. And also I'm going to be talking about some of the spirits that's attached to it. I know that some of you came on the line last week to listen to the teaching, but it got deleted, so no one could go back and listen to anything, you know, or either download it. So tonight is going to be a reteaching, and I'm believing that God is going to begin to even highlight more areas, you know, of the teaching. I know that many of you go to church and many of you read your Bibles and you've read about the spirit of you read about Haman in the book of Esther, but you've never really applied it, you know, to a spirit. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight, because there are many spirits that are operating up in the earth realm that we don't know about. Excuse me. A lot of people aren't familiar, you know, with, you know, demonic forces. They've heard about them. But my mission and my assignment by the Lord is to teach people about deliverance ministry, and to also teach them about the different spirits that operate, you know, in the earth realm as well as in the second heaven. A lot of people are afraid to be able to embrace, you know, the teachings. You know, they believe that once you're saved that you don't have to worry about that. But if you are a prayer warrior, you need to know the different type of spirits that you're coming up against. You need to know some of the names. And the reason why I say some, because you will never be able to know all of the names. And also spirits, demonic spirits operate in a way that sometimes they connect to other spirits and they can change their names. So tonight, let me turn this down some. Tonight we're going to be talking about, again, once I say the spirit of Haman. I don't own the rights to this music, so I want to let Facebook know that, so that they don't cut us off. Blessings to everyone. I see you waving, you know, to me. Can't call all of you by name. I ask if you don't mind to start a watch party on your page, or to invite some other people so that they can listen to the teaching as well. Okay? So tonight I'm going to go forth and begin to dissect this spirit tell you a little bit about it, how it operates, what its other spirits is connected to, and how it may be operating in your life, knowingly or unknowingly, or how it may be operating in other people's lives as well. So we're going to put an identity on this, and we're going to learn how to locate this spirit. The spirit of Haman is an ancient spirit that emerged out of the Amalekite nation. You remember the Amalekite nation, in the Bible, that came up against the Israelites. And when the Israelites had came out of war, they were so tired and they were trying to rest up. And the Amalekite nation came and they caught the Israelites by surprise. And they killed many of them. So we're going to find out tonight that Haman, the spirit of Haman is an ancient spirit. And the reason why it emerged out of the Amalekite nation is because Haman was a descendant of the Amalekites. So we know that when we have what we call bloodline spirits, ancestral spirits attached to our lives, that certain things can trickle down in our lives and all of a sudden they'll pop up. And some of today's generation that are connected to these ancestral spirits, which we all are, we have a bloodline, will begin to operate out of these spirits. And then people begin to say, well, where that spirit come from? How come they act like that? Because it's a bloodline spirit that have been awakened in their lives, because it's gotten down to the second, third, generation. And now it's time to reactivate itself and begin to operate again. So the Bible describes the spirit of Haman as being a hateful spirit. It's treacherous, it's plotting, it's sneaky, it loves to crucify people, it has a murdering spirit. It's always out to destroy somebody, to set you up. It wants to destroy your character. And it doesn't care if you know it or not. So the spirit of Haman is also connected and is in cahoots with the spirit of Jezebel. Y'all know about Jezebel, how Jezebel, send people in. So a lot of times people think it's Jezebel herself. But if you read the Bible, Jezebel sent people out to do her dirty work. So sometimes that spirit will come in, connected to the spirit of Haman, and start havoc in the church through a lot of rebellion. The spirit of Absalom, that was David's son, and he turned against David. And the spirit of Korah didn't want to take, instructions. So all four of these spirits stem from the principality spirit of pride. A lot of people got a lot of pride built up inside of them. And once they began to do platform ministry, began to elevate, that pride becomes puffed up inside of them. That pride becomes treacherous. And when that pride becomes treacherous, you can see that it's attached to the spirit of Haman. Because people began to take on the mindset of Haman. Stay with me. The spirit of Haman is also described as an ancient, malevolent spirit that has plagued the earth throughout generations. Like I said before, it's coming down through the bloodline, and the generations are embracing it. You will see over in the Cousins family, they acting up, they fighting all the time. They warring against one another. They're trying to take one another out. But over here on the other side of the Cousins family, they kind of mellow. You don't see them doing nothing. But what you don't realize is they operating under a spirit of conniving, where you don't really think they're doing something. See, one side of the family gonna let you know what they're doing, and one side of the family gonna be smooth with it. They're gonna be conniving, they're gonna be sly with it. But then after a while, they're gonna come forth, because remember I said that the spirit of Haman wants to be seen, and it gets mad when people don't appreciate it or worship it. So the spirit of Haman has no regard for human reasoning. It don't want to reason with you. It don't want to come into agreement with you. Do you know somebody who's like that? This spirit always wants to be in control. It's logic. It has no logic. It has no good intentions. And it's always in pursuit of gaining another level in a position. No matter what it costs them, it wants to be to the top. And if it cannot be all the way to the top, it will serve someone that's at the top. But at the same time, while they're serving somebody at the top, what it wants to do is do things underhandedly. You know, it's like being on a job where the supervisor is in authority over some people, but yet they treat you nasty because they want you to bow down to their every command. And some of the mess that they do, the upper management don't know nothing about it. So the ancient demonic spirit of Haman is always in pursuit of its next victim. Ask yourself, are you the next victim? Is the spirit of Haman trying to attack you, trying to destroy you, trying to destroy your family, and you don't know it? Come on, let's keep this thing going. It has grown rapidly and has branched out into many other territories beyond the borders of the Amalekite nation. It started in the Amalekite nation, but it's branched out beyond the borders. It's all in the United States. It's all in Canada. You know, it's all in third world countries. It's throughout the universe because everybody wants to be in charge of something. Now, some people are humble. They're satisfied, you know, in serving, and they will operate, you know, in a spirit of humility. But you got those that are really boastful, those that want to shine, and those that will move you out of the way in order to get where they need to get. We're still talking about the spirit of Haman. Now, if for those of you that have your Bible, turn with me to Esther, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to begin at the 1st verse. That's Esther, the 3rd chapter, beginning at the 1st verse. So for those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking about the spirit of Haman. And we talked about several spirits that, you know, was connected to that. And that was the spirit of Jezebel, the spirit of Absalom, and the spirit of Korah, which all intermingled and intertwined and operated under the principality spirit of pride. So you got the lower spirits, you got the grouping spirits, you got the root spirit, and you also got the principality spirit. Okay, Esther, the 3rd chapter, and the 1st verse begins with a visual story about, you know, Haman's power and how he was given a position, you know, of power by the king. And he rose quickly to the top above all of the other king's officers. It's like being in church. You know, somebody come, you know, in church and they, you know, pay attention, you know, to the leaders and they're faithful. You know, they operating in a humility spirit. And then, you know, the pastor begins to look at them and put them, you know, in position and allow them to just have free range in certain areas. But what happens is that the pastor did not discern that spirit that person was connected to, that Haman spirit. And when the pastor is not around, and that person is in charge and has legal authority because the pastor has given it to them, then all of a sudden they want to shine through their pride. And they begin to tell you things to do. And when you don't do it in the time frame that they want you to do it, or you don't do it at all, what happens is that you incite anger inside of them. They may not say nothing to you at that particular time, but they'll say something to somebody else. And then they'll sit and they'll plot in their demise how they can come against you. They'll build an entourage to be with them when it's time to attack you. And they'll keep rehearsing over and over in their mind. I remember when they did this to me. I like their nerves. I'm in charge. And I told them to do something and they refused to do it. Oh, they not going to shame me in front of other people because I'm the one in charge. You know those kind of people? But they're plotting secretly. And you see that spirit inside of them. And you began to say, I'm not bowing down to that wicked spirit. I know that the pastor says that we have to have respect for them, but I see that spirit that they operating under, and I'm not going to submit myself to them. See, the other people going to look at you as if you are out of order. They're going to look at you as if you are a troublemaker, but because you have the spirit of discernment, you're not going to adhere to some of the foolishness that they're trying to implement in the church when the pastor is not around. Come on here, somebody. I'm teaching on the Haman spirit. So as I said, Esther, the 3rd chapter, 1st through the 2nd verse, it paints a visual story about Haman's power and how he was given, a position. And like I said, he rose quickly. You know those kind of people? I mean, it just seemed like they just grab hold and they going. And people looking at them and saying, wow, they really moving on up. But they're not discerning the spirit that's attached to that person as they're moving on up. So this is what Esther 3:1-2 says. Verse 1, King Azarias promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha. I'm sorry, I'm not good with these, Bible names. Hamadatha, the Agagite, over the other nobles, making him the most powerful official in the empire. He wasn't just only an officer, he had power. He was powerful. He was just as powerful as the king. Verse 2, all the king's officers would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by. Just bow down to him. In these time and age, we don't bow down, but we can stop in our tracks. And we can do one of them kiss up good mornings. Or one of them kiss up good afternoon. Stay with me. So whenever he passed by, there was so much respect given to him. Because the king had commanded it. I'm going somewhere, especially for you people that say that people are out of order when they don't obey certain rules, in the church. Have you ever wondered why? But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. Now, Mordecai wasn't living inside of the palace. He lived on the outside of the palace. So he was hot mad because Mordecai didn't show him any respect. So when Mordecai refused to bow down, he made Haman furious, angry, upset so his mind just began to become in an outrage. So Esther 3:5 inform us that, like I said, Haman was so filled with rage. Oh my God. You ever seen people become so infuriated because of some people disrespecting them? And some of you on this line may have a problem with that as well. You get so mad because people don't do what you say do right then and there, or people don't honor you. And you get so mad that you got that get back spirit. And when you got that get back, spirit, it causes, a lot of things to begin to happen. Elder Sharon, you say, is the Haman spirit connected to the spirit of confusion? Well, somewhat. It's a spirit of control that wants to cause confusion in the land. I'll put it like that. It'll cause confusion, in the land if you don't adhere yourself to certain, demands. So let's move along to Esther 3 and 13. I got the Bible to back me up tonight. It informs us that in the sinful, sinister heart of Haman's mind. See, a lot of times people say you carry grudges in your heart. Let me tell you something. This heart right here, it don't do nothing but pump blood to keep you alive. God don't live in this heart. He don't deal with this heart. He deal with the heart of your mind. That's where the thinking goes on. That's where you begin to operate, out of your feelings, and your emotion. And that is what Satan talks to, in order to get you to come out of character. He never talks to this heart. So many people say, well, God lives in my heart. I'm here tonight to tell you he don't live in this heart. He allows this heart that's in your chest to pump blood. He lives in the heart of your mind, which is your thought process. Let this mind be in you that's also in Christ Jesus. Need to be transformed. Need to be renewed. Am I talking to somebody tonight? Now, like I said, Esther 3 and 13 informs us that in the sinful, sinister heart of Haman's mind, he conceived an inhuman plot. Listen to this. He conceived an inhuman plot after Mordecai did not bow down and worship him. I see he wasn't thinking like this before. But all of a sudden, that ancestral bloodline spirit began to awaken. When Malachi didn't bow down to him, that spirit was reactivated. And it was summoned through the bloodline to begin to say, wake up, and begin to operate in Haman, which is a part of our bloodline. Come on, somebody, listen to me and say it's time for Haman, I'm paraphrasing, to begin to carry out the assignment after it had been put to sleep for a while. It was time for it to be reactivated. Bloodline spirits. So after Mordecai did not obey the law of the land at that particular time, it sparked something in Haman. Now I know some of y'all say, Mordecai was out of order, but was he? Sometimes somebody wrong, when they carrying out orders in a strange way and you back away. And like I said previous, people going to talk about you. They're going to say you in rebellion. You're trying to start some mess in the church. But no, what you are doing is recognizing that demonic bloodline spirit that have come back to life. And it's beginning to reactivate itself so it can start operating. So, after that happened, that's when Haman began to listen to the voice of the enemy, because that thought came in his mind. And Haman got so furious, Haman got so angry, that he began to plot something inhuman. He began to plan genocide. He wanted to slaughter and annihilate all in one day all of the men, women, and children who were Jews throughout a demonic inspired massacre. See, that's why we hear about people taking out a whole family. It's been in the news this week, how a man, went in, killed his wife, his child and other people that was in the house. That was a massacre. So when you're dealing with people that operate in a massacre killing, you're dealing with people who are embraced by a Haman spirit. I know some people don't want to believe this. Some people can't be carried deep into this because they got shallow mind. And, they don't want to learn about this because they feel like as long as they go to church, that they don't need, this, that long as they saved, they on their way to heaven. But keep getting knocked upside your head through spirits that you don't understand. Keep going through things that's about to take you out because of a spirit that you have no knowledge about. Keep saying that you are a prayer warrior, but you don't know how to war against satanic things. You're always warring against the same thing. Come on, somebody. I'm telling the truth tonight. This is real talk. No, you're not going to find this type of teaching in a regular training in a church, because a lot of people don't like to go down into the in-depthness of this type of teaching. But hang on in here, we're not finished. So like I said, Haman had a sinful, sinister heart. He was angry, he was upset. And the ancestral spirits were upset as well. And they say, Haman, it's time for you to stand up and operate in the authority that your ancestors have given you. So Esther 5:11 informs us about Haman's boasting. When you become proudful, you'll begin to boast about things, especially when you are in certain positions that of authority that cause you, to embrace wealth. So he began to boast. Esther 5:11 tells us that Haman started bragging to all of his friends about how rich he was. You know how people do, sometimes, they on Facebook, they flaunting their money, they talk about their cars, and talk about the different type of houses you got. Now, don't get me wrong, ain't nothing wrong with being blessed. But when you get online and you proudful, and you just showing all your money, laying all back, that's a spirit of bragging that's connected to the spirit of Haman. And after he got through bragging about his riches, he started bragging about all the sons that he had. See, back in the Bible days, it was important to have children, but it was important to have male children, because male children carried on the seed, of the family inheritance. So he bragged to them about his many sons that he had, and about all the ways that the king had honored him. Yeah, you ever hear people bragging in the church? Yeah, the pastor let me do this, because I've been trained, to do, this, and the pastor this, and the pastor that. The pastor done promoted me into a high position, and it's on and popping. I don't have to worry about other people because they follow up under my lead. Haman was so consumed with pride that he was marked 4 times. Hear me now. He was marked 4 times in the book of Esther as the enemy of the Jews. Wow, you serving up under the king, and you mark the enemy of the Jews. So you're serving up under the pastor, bringing it into today's term, and you are marked the enemy of the people because you don't like them. Esther 3:10 tells us that the king took his official reign, which means his authority, off his finger, and he gave it to Haman. And it says that Haman was the enemy of the Jews, but the king didn't know it at that time because he had not been informed. In other words, he did not have spiritual discernment. Are you listening to me tonight, people? For those of you that are just coming in, I ask that you please start a watch party on your page, or share and invite it on your page. Share it on your page and invite some people to listen. So Esther 8:1 tells us that the same day King Ahasuerus gave Queen Esther everything that belonged to Haman, it also said that he was the enemy of the Jews. That's why King Esther received everything that he owned, because she was a Jew and her people were Jews. Remember, we're talking about how Haman's name was mentioned, over 4 times, and stating that he was an enemy. So Esther 9:24, Haman again was the enemy of the Jews. He made an evil plan against the Jews to destroy them. Who's trying to destroy you? Who's trying to destroy your family? Who's operating in the church to kill your character? Who's operating in the church to take you out? Who's operating on your job to take you out? Who's operating in your household, in your family, to take you out? You need to know these things. You need to know where the spirit of Haman is located in your family, where it's located on your job, where it's located in the church. Who is it operating out of? So let's go back to Esther 7th chapter 1-6 for those of you that have your Bible. And this is what it says. Esther 7, 1-6 informs us how Esther had invited the king and Haman to a banquet, and then she revealed to the king how Haman had plotted to kill her and her people. Look at him. Those that are operating up on the spirit of Haman, their day is coming to an end. I know that it may seem like they're getting over. I know that it may seem like they're doing some treacherous thing, but an end is going to come. You see, Haman was so slick that he got the king to sign a decree so that he could send it out by his loyal, workmen. The ones that would go out and would say what thus said the king. And the decree was made to kill the Jews. But the king didn't know at the time that his wife, Queen Esther, was a Jew. Watch out who you're trying to plot against, because you don't know who somebody's some kin to. Come on, somebody. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet. I can imagine, that Haman had his chest all stuck out because, he was among the elite. And he was going to a banquet that nobody else could go to. Just him and the king. So this was the second banquet. So on this occasion, they were drinking wine, sitting back, relaxing. The king began to say to Esther, "Tell me what you want, Queen Esther." In other words, he started feeling good, paraphrasing with the wine, and say, "Baby, tell me what you want. What's your request, baby? I will give it to you, even if it's half of the kingdom." That man was in love with that woman. So Queen Esther replied, baby, I'm paraphrasing so you can understand, "If I have found favor with you, my king." In other words, if I have shown you respect, shown you loyalty, and you love me, oh, if it pleases the king, would you grant me this one request? I ask that my life and the lives of my people be spared. And I'm, beginning to think in my mind how, the king must have felt like, what you talking about, baby? Verse 4, "For my people and I have been sold to those who would kill, slaughter, and annihilate us. If we had merely been sold as slaves, I could remain quiet. For that would be would be too trivial a matter to warrant disturbing you about, baby. She talking to the king. So the king got mad. I mean, he had just told his woman that he was in love with her to the point that he would give her half of the kingdom, whatever she wanted. So the king got mad. And Esther replied, the wicked Haman. I'm paraphrasing y'all so you can understand it. This man that you brought to the banquet with you, he is my adversary, also my people adversary. He's the enemy. He's the one that's been plotting to kill me. Your sweet thing, your boo, your queen. Now what you gonna do about it? You told me that you would give me half of the kingdom. You told me that you was in love with me. So what you gonna do with your second in command up under you? So what happened, it tells us in verse 6 that, in verse 7, that the king jumped up to his feet in a rage. That the king was so mad that he had to run out of the room where he was. In other words, he had to clear his head. He had to say, oh my God, am I really hearing this? Is this man plotting to try to attack my wife and her people? And as this man come to me and convince me to sign a decree against this people, this man tricked me. I'm the king. I'm not supposed to be tricked. But he want to kill the woman I love. So all of a sudden the king got mad all over again, and he came back into the room where Esther and Haman was. So in despair, Haman started begging Queen Esther for his life. Start saying that he's sorry. I can imagine he said, oh my queen, I didn't know that you was a Jew, and I didn't know that I was plotting things, up against you. But in the midst of it, he slipped and he fell on top of her. And when the king came in, oh my God, what did his eyes see? While Queen Esther was sitting back reclining, Haman laying on top of her, the queen began to say, will you even assault the queen right here in the palace? Right before my very eyes? See, the king didn't know he had slipped. But when you are treacherous and evil and trying to take out people, God would allow certain things to happen to you. So homeboy slipped, and the king saw it. And as soon as the king spoke against him, he didn't have to grab it. All of his guards came in. And when they did, they covered Haman's face with a cloth-like bag. That's what they used to do to people that, they was getting ready to take out. They was getting ready to kill because they didn't want to see the expression on their face. That's why you see a lot of people that's caught up in big-time mafias and stuff. When they kill people, they put bags and stuff, over their face. Verse 9, it say, then Harbana, one of the king's eunuchs, said, I'm paraphrasing, guess what, my king? Haman was plotting, and he also set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall in his own courtyard. Haman, he wouldn't put it out into the city courtyard. He gonna set up this gala in his own courtyard at the palace so that people can see, because that made him feel important. See, he was going to have the Jews killed, but he was going to hang Mordecai. He was going to make an example out of Mordecai. So that's when the eunuchs began to say, he done set it up It's 75 feet tall. It's in its own courtyard. And he intended to use Mordecai, the man who saved the king from assassination. See, Haman didn't realize that before he got moved up, that the king had an assassination plot formed against him. And Mordecai found out about it, and Mordecai stopped it. See, the people that you try to put your foot on, the people that you try to take out, you don't know what they've done for somebody in the past. Be careful who you treat wrong. Be careful in allowing this Haman spirit to embrace you. So guess what? That same gallon they took and they hung him immediately on that gallows. Remember, Haman wanted to do a massacre of all of the men, women, and children, of the Jews, even with Mordecai in just one day. That was going to be a massacre, a slaughter. So the same thing that he tried to carry out was carried out upon him just one day. They didn't let him sit in jail. They didn't have no court, date set, aside. He didn't have no jury, to say whether he live or die. No, he was taken out right then and there. So see, Haman's doom took place. It was rude. It was terrible. But thankfully it only lasted for a few years. So you see, Haman's plot to kill the Jews and hang Mordecai on the gallows for all to see turned against him. And instead he died the same way that he wanted somebody else to die. What am I saying tonight? What are you doing to crucify somebody, to take somebody out? Be careful, because it might be turned around and it might come back on you. Or do you know somebody that's coming against other people, and you need to open up your mouth so that you can stop the plot and not go along with it? I'm talking to somebody tonight. We need to get rid of the Haman spirits throughout the land. We need to get rid of the Haman spirits that's coming and walking inside of the church with this crucifying spirit like they own something. They don't care who they take out. Because, a lot of people think that the pastor knows everything when they don't. A lot of times God will only show us partial things. And then we began to say that the pastor, ain't got no discernment. Yes, he does, or yes, she does. But it's only partial. Just like you don't have discernment of everything. Your discernment is partial. See, pastors have a loving heart where they want to love everybody. They want to trust everybody. I'm talking about good pastors. I ain't talking about those that manipulate people. And sometimes they can't see past the heart of the mind of a person. They don't want to see the treacherous spirit that lies inside of them. They don't want to see that Haman spirit. So sometimes the people have to suffer at the hand of Haman because the pastors don't see the spirit lurking around in the church. People who are embraced by the spirit of Haman are full of pride. They love to crucify individuals. Listen to me. I've said it numerous times. They love to crucify individuals in the church, out of the church, in the family, on the job. They just got powerful, proudful spirits, and they don't want nobody getting in their way. They're very manipulative, and they want things to be their way. They're very controlling. And they get mad at you if you don't honor them. If you don't bow down to their ways, if you speak up against them. And remember, I told you in the beginning that the spirit of Haman is connected to and is in cahoots with the spirit of Jezebel, the spirit of Absalom, and the spirit of Korah. All four of these spirits stem from the principality spirit of pride. You got to know how spirits trickle down. where they come from, how they operate, where they're located, and what assignment they have been given. When it comes to your life, the people in your church lives, even your pastor's life. Stop blaming everything on the pastor. When a lieutenant or a sergeant goes out to war, with this unit, they can't be fighting against the unit, and the unit can't be fighting against them. All have eyes to see, and they alert one another. So I thank you tonight, those of you that came in and listened to the teaching on the spirit of Haman, which was a reteaching from last week. As I said before, the first teaching got deleted. So I pray that you were blessed, by, this teaching, and I pray that some of you shared it, on your page, or invited some of your friends to listen to it. And remember, all of the teachings that I do, I always download them and then upload them to YouTube. So that way you can type in my name, Cecilia Mathis, and you can pull them up, and you can also recommend the teachings to some of your friends that are not on social media. So for those of you that were blessed, by the ministry tonight, I ask that you would consider sowing a seed in any amount on the Cash App at Cecilia Mathis. That's Cash App on Cecilia Mathis. I pray that you are blessed tonight, and I pray that you had questions, that were answered after the broadcast. For those of you that may have typed in questions that I did not see, I will go through the questions and then I will answer them. So if you want to watch the replay, I encourage you, especially for those of you that just tune in. So this is the ending of the broadcast on tonight and the teaching on the spirit of Haman. God bless you all. I love you. And I ask that you come back every Monday night at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more teaching on demonic spirits. God bless you.